Well, the main event was pretty good. I'm Joe Redno with my review of the United Wrestling Network's Primetime Live Episode 10 event, but of all the Primetime Live episodes I've seen so far, this is probably my least favorite. That's not to say it was bad, but just some of the matches were just kind of there for me. And maybe it's because I'm not familiar with some of these talents, but really, nothing really drew me in outside the main event and the women's match. But again, not that bad in all honesty, especially for a studio wrestling show, and I appreciate the efforts of the talents. So promos from various wrestlers are going to be on the show. And I do like that they're, just doing the studio feel game, giving them a chance to get out there and do their gimmicks, promote their characters, really good stuff. And we get Keita Murray versus Sliced Boogie. I thought it was Sliced Boogie at first and got really confused. Boogie was the heel here and did some good groundwork. Murray with some nice agility. Not a bad match. Felt like this could have ended a couple minutes sooner than it did. Lift and reverse DDT gets the 3, and Boogie gets the win. Not bad, but again, it was something that was just kind of there for me. And the announcers run down the rest of the card. Ray Rosas talks about facing Andy Brown. He's out for revenge, their former tag team partners. So, okay, some good personal animosity for this main event for the Hollywood Heritage Championship. And then we get the Cornbell Cowboy, I believe he's called. One called Manders. He's a cowboy from Iowa. Okay, cool. He's taking on Richie Slade with Flex McAllen, and they're part of that Team Beef, or they're that Team Beef Candy. They were on one of the earlier episodes. I don't recall which one, but they weren't that bad. It's brawler versus a chicken shit heel, so naturally, since there's two guys out there, the teammate in the guy's corner, he keeps interfering, and, Slade keeps taking the advantage. Eventually, there's, the power of Manders just is too much to overcome. He eventually does hit the Iowa Stampede, 1, 2, 3. This one, it had a bit too much interference. It had a few awkward spots, but certainly wasn't all that bad. And then we get an update on the World Title Tournament. Dickinson is injured. He suffered a really bad bump on the apron, which that's really another reason why they need to get rid of these goddamn apron bumps in all companies. Limit them, because it is the hardest part of the ring, and even though these are trained professionals from the indies all the way up to the very top, you really need to stop the apron bumps because they're fucking dangerous. I've seen them on a lot of indie shows I've been at, and they're fucking dangerous, and they're just unnecessary. And it also gets to the point where you're kind of numb to it. The doctor says he will not clear Dickinson because of, the injuries that he has. And then we get an interview with Dave Marquez, how the UWN has been successful, took years to come to fruition like it has, and that the world title finals are on hold because Mike Bennett was going to be awarded the championship, but he's like, I'm not going to be paper champion. I want to earn it, and that's good. So they're going to delay it. I don't know if they're going to delay it a week, 2 weeks. I'm not actually sure. They didn't announce it for next week's episode, so I assume maybe for episode 12. We'll see. And let's get right on into the next thing. This, by the way, was a good interview piece. We get Danny Limelight. Danny Limelight's got star written all over him. He's really goddamn good on New Japan Strong, a few episodes of AEW Dark, and also all over Primetime Live. He did, confront Clark Connors when Clark says, well, I've beaten you 2 times already, and I'm going to make it 3. He says, in the Padres shirt, when's the last time the Padres won anything? That's a good insult, because the Padres have not been a good team for a long time. And then we get the women's match, Lindsay Snow, the American Kaiju versus Ruby Raze. This wasn't bad. The women certainly took it seriously and were trying, they were hitting some good stiff shots. There were a few awkward spots with a chair, and it's like they kept going for the weapons. It was obvious they didn't want to have either of them lose. And we get, head first into the steps. That looked kind of deadly. It looked like Lindsay really hurt herself. Ruby got hit into the steps as well. Ruby does slam Snow on the concrete. They don't got pads out there, so they really take that shit, hard. And the referee gets bumped. He accidentally kind of gets poked in the eye a little bit, and then they shove the ref out of the way because they want to continue brawling. Then he throws it out, and then he gets thrown out of the ring because Ruby is like, no, down with the patriarchy, and there you go. So it's a double disqualification. Danny Limelight with Popo Esco. I thought it was Popo Esco, and I kept thinking all these squares make a circle because I have watched too much Dragon Ball Z, so I thought they were referencing Mr. Popo. Versus Clark Connors. Can Clark go 3-0 against Danny? No, he can't, because his arm got focused on after a post spot. Pretty good stuff. Esco kept making, his presence known. And then eventually a Boston Crab, but he just couldn't hold on to it. He couldn't even do the single version because his other arm hurt that goddamn much. Loaded punch, though. 1, 2, 3. Danny Limelight, a good cheating heel. Really good star here, and he got the victory. And then a double team on Clark afterwards, guaranteeing this feud will continue. Maybe they have a street fight, down the road. Ray Rosas versus Andy Brown, Hollywood Heritage Championship. Well, former tag partners, they took it seriously. They hit some really good shots. They treated it personally. Andy at one point was laughing after a bunch of action because he's like, you can't beat me, you can't beat me. And then, Ray's like, okay, I'm going to hit some strikes, a couple super kicks, I'm going to hit a clothesline, and pump handle into double knees and get the victory. And Ray Rosas retains his championship. So not a bad episode. I encourage you guys to check out the main event as it was pretty good. The women's match was good for what it was, even with the dodgy finish, but the rest of it was just kind of there. Though I think Danny Limelight and Clark Connors did perform well, even with the, obvious heel finish. Anyway, agree, disagree with what I said? Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.